What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It has been forever. As you can see, I am in a different setup. I've set up my wall behind me. It took me a long time to figure out what I actually wanted. But no, yes, I'm in a different setup. I've been doing a lot of different things, but I'm finally getting back into this. It feels like it's been forever, even though I feel like I just released, or I'm releasing at least like podcast episodes every now and again. Anyways, I'm excited. I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to watch a bunch of new things. This one was requested, so I'm super excited to do it. I did see, we're watching Monster. That's something that I guess I should say. We're watching Monster, the Menendez brother story. I did see Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. I watched that all the way through. Yeah. These TV shows, I think about these tragedies and these serial killers or whatever crimes that they're committing. Like, there's so many questions, and there's such a big debate, and it's super controversial on whether or not we're glorifying them, whether or not we're fantasizing them. I think that there's a lot to be said about the way that these things get made, especially like when you get like all of like the permissions and everything from everybody that's been involved who are still alive or family members or anything like that. So yeah, I think it's just a really tricky situation, but I'm excited to jump into this one, mostly because like with Dahmer, I feel like it was pretty cut and dry, right? Like, which is ironic because I guess you can say the same thing about this one being cut and dry, like as far as like they confessed and all of that. But with Dahmer, it was like we could all agree that you don't just wake up one day and decide to like cut somebody up and eat them, or you don't decide to, you know, go out, hook up with somebody and then eat them. But with this one, I feel like there's a lot more that goes into it. The justice system, psychological aspects of it all, entertainment aspects of it all. So obviously I'm your favorite director's favorite director. So I'm coming in with the aspect of like the cinematography of it all, the direction of it all. And that's super tricky, and that's could be considered like super hard if it's not for entertainment purposes. Like it is for entertainment purposes. There are some things that are gonna have to be dressed up. There are some things that are gonna have to be watered down. There are some things that may not have happened that they're putting in just because you want to keep the audience engagement. And so I think that's where you get a lot of controversy, where you have people going, well, that didn't happen. And then you have the show going, well, no, yes, it did. So there's a lot of that. So I'm looking at it from that perspective of like the director perspective. But I also am a super diehard true crime fan. I love watching true crime. I love watching people watch true crime. I watch a lot of Law and Order. I watch a lot of Criminal Minds. I watch a lot of all of it, which is no surprise to anybody. So yeah, I guess I'm just coming at it from the perspective of an audience member for sure, but also from the perspective of a director. So anything that I'm saying, anything as far as the entirety of the series goes, because I do want to watch the full series, it'll be from the standpoint of direction, unless like I clarify, like psychologically speaking. I am not a psychologist. I feel like that should be like a disclaimer. Like, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't work in the legal system. I don't work in the justice system. I'd like to think that my countless hours of Law and Order and Criminal Minds, like, I might as well be working in the legal system and like, you know, be an agent, but like, it's fine. I'm not. I understand why I'm not. So yeah. I'm excited to get into it. I'm excited to react to it. I'm excited to, you know, see what it has to offer. I've heard a lot of different things about it. I've heard great things as far as the way that it's filmed, as far as like the production value of it. I've heard terrible things about how a lot of it was not true. I believe one of the brothers just came out and said that the way that they were portrayed was not right. I've heard that they've been vilified in this, which, I mean, we would have to define what a villain is. And yeah, so we'll see how I feel about it, but I'm excited to just kind of jump into it. I don't want to waste any more time. I've already been doing this introduction for 5 minutes. But you know what it is, you know what's up. How's your mental health? How are you doing? How are you feeling? Are you excited? Are you worried? Are you watching this for the first time with me? Are you not watching this for the first time? Are you not gonna watch it at all? Yeah, so just let me know. But other than that, I'm ready to just kind of jump in. If you love it here, if you want to just come and chill and watch TV with me, like, subscribe, comment, and if not, I get it, but I'm happy that you're here. And yeah, let's just jump right into it.
Healthy food, friendly service. Come on, we will be printing money. You mark my words, Eric. What TCBY did for yogurt, that is exactly what Mr. Buffalo is going to do for Buffalo Wings.
Like, spoiler alert, there's a lot that I don't know about the Menendez brothers. I did do I was watching a lot of different clips and stuff about the trial. I was watching the lawyers speak on both sides, the prosecutor to the defense. I was watching the brothers. I was watching family members. I was watching the witnesses, like the jury speak. Like, I was watching all of that. So there's a lot that I know as far as like what happened at the trial and in court. There's a lot that I don't know about them specifically outside of like the abuse claims, the abuse allegations, and the fact that I have to say that is crazy, but the abuse allegations versus like the actual like murder.
Hey, Eric, listen to me. You're not fucking doing this right now. Sorry. Suck it the fuck up and do not act like a goddamn pussy. It's alright. It's alright. I love you. I love you.
What am I, 5 minutes in? 2 minutes in. Yes, it's a new record. It's got to be 2 minutes in. I think that right off the top, first of all, I have to say this is a beautiful scene. It's a beautifully lit scene. It's a beautifully shot scene. Obviously, we're just kind of like in the back of the town car, the limo at this point, and we're seeing a lot of like the initial trauma, like, and it's interesting because of the trigger of it. Like, the triggers are so different amongst different people, right? So for this specific situation, the trigger are those dad's shoes, and they are dad's shoes, and now he's kind of triggered and he's kind of slipping back into this like that was like my abuser and this is how I'm feeling. And LYLE, which I think is interesting, the way that they're kind of painting him out to be this like I mean, what he says, like don't be a pussy, like don't stop. And I think that that's interesting. I think that also too, you can say that they just deal with it in different ways. LYLE is trying to fill the shoes of his abuser, which you can say Stockholm, you can say whatever you would want to say there, but LYLE is trying to fill those shoes, and he's trying to kind of move forward, and he's kind of playing, and I believe he is the big brother here, so he's playing the big brother role of moving forward. And Erik is very much still traumatized by it. So I think that it's super interesting to kind of see the difference in dynamic, because I did hear a lot of people claiming that LYLE was kind of like the narcissist out of the brothers. He's the narcissist, he's arrogant, and it's interesting that like within the first 2 minutes, they're kind of showing you one of these guys is super, super affected by this trauma or this traumatic incident that's been happening or has happened. And one of them is kind of like, no, we just have to keep moving forward and we have to keep going with it. So I think that that's interesting.
Erik, did the mafia kill your parents?
No, I'm Lyle. I don't know, it certainly appears as such, but that's what we gotta find out.
Are you afraid the mafia could come after you?
Yeah. Hey, where's your camera?
Hey, Mafia, after what we've been through, I'd like to see you try.
Okay, is that a threat?
Hey, come on. Your target's okay. We're getting you.
Cyrus Bean scandal. Took me forever to get there, but I got it. See what I mean? There's just a lot that I didn't know. There's just a lot that I feel like I have to fact check, because I didn't know that like originally it was like, oh, the mafia killed our parents, not us. So there's clearly a lot that I'm learning. Also, I think I said Mendez. It's Menendez. I'm an idiot.
My mom, she'd scoop up the birds and She'd bring him inside and she'd heal them, help them get better.
Maybe someday, when I see you in heaven, we could all hit a few balls back and forth. Thank you.
Anyone who knew my dad will tell you that he was tough. Just ask a line judge who missed a call at one of minor Eric's tennis matches. So, Mom, for my final words to you, I will leave this to two poets who are much better at this than I. In their words, girl, I'm gonna miss you.
No. This cannot be accurate. This is okay. It's almost like a joke. Like obviously they did it. Obviously we see that Erik is a lot more bothered. At least with him, I can see like there's a lot of guilt there. With LYLE, he's clearly trying to kind of, I mean, the irony is he said that his brother was the actor, but clearly it's him. And even like in the way that he named like icon, whatever, all of the things about his dad, and then father was last, it kind of tells you where his dad stood on his podium. So there are a lot of like nods and like tips to like understand like, okay, like no, like there was something going on there. The song is truly interesting.
Is behind bars and facing the death penalty.
The audio layover over a scene that's playing in a room where it was probably like the crime was probably committed is actually a super common thing. And I think that it's interesting because when you take away the visuals, and my sister and I talk about this a lot, but when you take away the visuals of something and all you have left to focus on is the audio, and that audio consists of screaming and gunshots and just brutal and traumatic sound, it's really interesting because what happens in this scene, in this moment, when he's kind of, also I loved the transition obviously, but when he's kind of remembering what happened, it's interesting that we're not seeing it, we're only allowed to hear it. And when you're only using one of your senses versus using 2 or 3 or 4, you feel a lot more unnerved and unsettled. And I think that that's what memory is oftentimes, is you'll either hear it or you'll see it, but you won't hear it. Or, you know, you'll see the clip and then like you'll hear like the really high pitched, just like almost like a flat line of like a high pitched noise in your ear, and you'll be able to witness what's going on. So it's interesting. And I would imagine that we're going to see a lot of that kind of just remembrance, and I'm sure that they'll show us obviously, but leading up to that incident, or leading up to showing us that incident, to only allow us to kind of hear what happened, and kind of from Erik's perspective too, of like obviously this is really weighing heavy on him, and even his mind, even his brain is only allowing him to either hear it or, and you can see like how apprehensive he is to go into the double doors, to even set foot back there. And I also think it says something that they're still living in the house that it happened in. That says a lot. A lot of people are so distraught, and it was such a traumatic event that they move and they leave. But I'd imagine that was probably LYLE's decision to stay in the house, almost to kind of become his father and whereas Erik is really, really struggling, clearly. And I find it interesting too that when you do those press conferences as police, you are talking to the killer, you are talking to the killer/killers. So it's interesting to see from the perspective of the killer watching that press conference and going, oh, you're talking to me. So yeah. Whole girlfriend and everything.
Shit, did you see that, Jamie? It just fucking jumped like a little schoolgirl. That was classic.
Don't be a prick, Lyle. Hey, Eric.
Hey, Jamie.
I'm really glad you called.
Yeah, me too.
So, you are feeling what?
Yeah, I've just been kind of suicidal.
Gregory Yates, I believe, from Law and Order Special Victims Unit. He was a big, big, big bad guy. If I didn't place him, I was going to be annoyed this whole time. That's interesting that he plays the therapist here because he was the psychopath then. I mean, he was in Law and Order Special Victims Unit, but he's also in Chicago PD.
Well, now, when you came to me before about the burglary conviction, that silly stuff that you're way beyond now, the court mandated that I tell your parents what we talked about. But now, obviously, I mean,
That was a half-truth. So technically, if I'm not mistaken, no, he can't breach client and doctor confidentiality. However, I believe that if it was in relation, if the information he was given was in relation to a crime of either potentially hurting himself or hurting someone else or committing the crime, I believe. But I could also be very, very wrong. I feel like that's kind of it's in line with like Catholicism when like you're going into a confessional and whoever you confess to cannot tell you about the confession. So I feel like that's accurate. Like it's accurate to say that like I believe the doctor would have to say something in regards to the crime that was committed or a crime that could potentially be committed to the police. But if I'm wrong about that, then he's still gonna be battling morally.
I'm standing there, and my mom gets shot in the stomach, and then the leg, because her knee practically exploded. Right?
yeah.
And she keeps getting shot, but she won't die.
Also, there's a lot of fear on the psychiatrist's face. There's like a lot of fear there, and also this low angle, the way that this was shot in such a low angle, it kind of, first of all, it's a low angle and they're equidistant, so they're kind of like on the same parallel plane. But also when you frame somebody in a lower angle, they kind of have like the upper hand. And in this situation, Erik, because nobody knows that he committed these crimes, kind of has that upper hand of like, he's kind of getting away with it. And I'd be curious to see how the camera angles and the movements change over time. Because I don't think that they've went to a wider shot. They're very close up. We're kind of personal.
Hey, is this the house where those parents got
Got what?
shot?
Well, why don't you come inside and have a look? How about you get the fuck off my property before I shove that fucking Snickers bar all the way up your ass, cowboy?
Lyle is taking on some personality traits of his father.
He was on the money side, behind the scenes stuff, but I mean, he was every bit as influential as Spielberg, Scorsese.
Let me explain something to you. Steven Spielberg, the man, the myth, the legend, is iconic. Now, to say that somebody was, I don't know anything about Jose Menendez. I don't know about being on the financial side, in what aspect, because I personally, I can't say that I agree with that. I don't think that you're influential because you're on the money side of film. I think that you're influential when you're telling great stories. This is such a rehearsed thing for Erik. I think that he wanted to believe that his dad was a good man. I think that a lot of the times with situations like this, it always ends up turning into an act of almost a want and a desire to have a very specific person with a very specific set of guidelines that raises you or guides you, and when they don't live up to that, and something tragic happens, you kind of go out of your way to find those things in these people. And I think that, again, Erik knows what his dad did to him.
Allegedly.
And he's still saying he was a good man. I don't know that anybody knows that. And it's almost, first, I think that that's a lot of overcompensation to hide the fact that he did it. And LYLE, like I said, has so many traits of his dad in him, very angry. And he continues to do what his dad did to him. So that cycle of abuse just kind of continues, even now, the way that he talks to Erik. So it's just interesting. So Erik is still essentially dealing with his father, just in the form of his brother.
So, we did it, my brother and I guess the plan started when I was watching this movie, Billionaire Boys Club.
He was scared, really scared.
It's about these kids who have these rich parents and they kill them. The kids do. I wanted to do it soon, before we lost the nerve to go through with it. But LYLE really wanted to take the time, really plan it out.
It's so interesting when they're doing kind of the flashbacks and like the voiceover, how nonchalant they are about talking about it. Like, he's like sitting crisscross applesauce, eating some snacks. They're like laying on the bed, like they're kikiing on the bed. So it's really interesting, the lack of like understanding of intensity and consequence and vulgarity and everything. Like the lack of understanding of how much this is going to affect them, how much this is going to affect their lives, how much this is going to affect the people around them, the consequences. And so to watch them be so nonchalant is so unnerving. And I'm using that word a lot, I see, but it's just so unnerving and unsettling to see them kind of be so like, yeah, you know, we were making a plan because I like was watching this movie one day and I was like, oh my God, like that's us. Let's do it too. So it's just interesting to see how minimized it's been. Like, you know, when people are like, don't minimize this. Like, this is, like, it feels so minimized in the way that they're plotting and planning.
Why on a Sunday?
Well, the maid was off on weekends.
That's it?
The shudder. Did you notice the shudder? He shuddered. It's like, oh, like the amount of planning. Like, why on a Sunday? Like, that, is there a specific reason? Like, yeah, like we knew that nobody would be there. So it's like the amount of planning. And I think this is truthfully what came into play later on in the trial was to the extent of like first degree, which is why they were charged and found guilty of it. The amount of planning, nobody would be there. This is how we would do it. This is when we would do it. This is where we would do it. This is how all of that. It's crazy.
Erik, you watched a movie and you decided to kill your parents. Most people don't do that.
Jesus, you little piece of shit! What have we been working on? Jesus!
Mr. Menendez,
No, don't you fucking touch me!
Wow. Okay, that was interesting. Okay, the story is starting to get painted now. Now we're starting to understand the story, and what the therapist is trying to do is determine the motive. He's right. You don't wake up when you don't watch him. I've watched plenty of movie. I am a fiend for movies, but you don't wake up one day, you don't look at a movie one day and go, that'd be fun to do, unless there was mitigating circumstances, meaning unless there was something going on in your life that made you feel like that was the only way out. And we, unfortunately, we see that all the time in bullying cases and suicide, or abuse and murder, which is what he's saying. So like, there's got to be a mitigating circumstance. So he's trying to get down to the motive, and he's saying people don't do that. And he goes, well, people don't know my dad. People don't know who my dad was. And you can see how hesitant and reluctant he is to say that he was abused by his father, even though the abuse by his father, allegedly, I do have to say allegedly, even though the abuse by his father was kind of, I'm not going to say that what his father did, what their mom did, warranted them being dead. I don't think that that's, in this third dimension, that's not how things work. There are systems and things that have to, you have to go through. But I will say that when you feel like the only option is this, or the only option is that, in your mind, that is it. Like, this is my only escape route. A lot of the time for the people who are bullied, they feel like taking their own life is their only escape route. And we try over and over to help. And I do think that time plays a very, very, very big factor in this. I was born in the 90s, but things were just different. Whereas when I was disciplined, I was hit with the belt. Nowadays, you don't see that as often. So I think that that was also something that the prosecution did claim, was discipline does not equate to being murdered. Like, just because your dad was a disciplinary man or your mom didn't stop the discipline doesn't mean that they deserve to be killed. So again, I think time is such a big factor in what we're witnessing.
South Dakota. Man, boss!
Honey, what?
Dumb fucking shit, it's Pierre!
Sorry about that, guys. Camera died. Camera was dying. Had to get back in it.
That was a bad call.
But cool my ass, get in there! Shut the door.
Just very domineering. She was suicidal. So we thought that was a sign that her life had no value. And this was us kind of putting her out of her misery.
That is absolutely insane. That is so crazy. We thought that her life had no value, so we thought that this was putting her out of her misery. Well, she thought that her life had, we thought that meant that she felt like her life didn't have any value. And to be the person who decides that is interesting. To be the person who decides, well, you tried to take your own life, so you don't care about your own life, so it's not a big deal if we take it for you. But I do think that this kind of plays back into just kind of like not feeling protected by her. I think it's an interesting thing to say that she was addicted to him, so that when he had the affair, it started to really affect her. But yeah, I think that the word choice was interesting. I think that what he's saying here is very, very interesting, and it's very telling of how they kind of, I'll preface this with, I'm going off of what I'm being shown right now in this moment, as if I have no knowledge of the future, but it's telling of, if I were to hear this without knowing kind of, what the allegations were after this, it's telling of how they see human life. It reminds me of almost Jigsaw in a way, where he would take these people who didn't care about life or who didn't appreciate life, and he would put them in these situations where they had to learn to appreciate life. Like, they didn't even give her that option. It was like, oh, you don't care about yourself? Neither do we. So that's interesting.
My mom got involved.
I love her, and I think that you should understand, Mom.
20 years old, you are not getting married. No way.
Why should I listen to you two when you got married at exactly my age?
whore.
Yes.
No, you don't get to say when you did exactly the same thing when you were my age, Mom.
You are the hypocrite, huh? What about this?
Oh.
Lord, I'm
No. Cut the cameras. No.
I'm so tired, child. I'm so tired. I'm really tired.
She said hypocrite and pulled man's wig off. Wow. Y'all got jokes. This show's got jokes. This show's got jokes. That's crazy. Also, oh my gosh, sorry, now that I'm past that, both sides are interesting. He wants to get married at 20. He's saying, oh, one sec. He's saying, you're a hypocrite. You did the same thing that I did. And I think that it's interesting because we never heed our parents' advice, do we? We never heed their warnings. And I think for them, as Erik already stated, they are already in a very specific place with their mom where it's like, you don't even value your life. So why the would we care about what you have to say to us? Wow. Okay.
What he's supposed to know.
Jamie doesn't even know.
And I suddenly saw how cruel it was, what was going on in that house. And, I finally told him.
For a handgun, no, that's a 2-week waiting period.
Wait, what? No way.
That is like my right.
Preaching to the choir, dude. Thank Jerry Brown for that.
Finally, we found this Big 5 in San Diego where you could get a shotgun.
Not the Big 5. Also, this is interesting because I think that I had assumed, at least, that that they used the shotgun was their first choice. And clearly I did not do enough digging, which I'm okay with. Like, I'm glad that I'm learning as I'm going. The shotgun was not their first choice. A lot of people assume that because they use the shotgun and how brutal that is to use a shotgun in killing somebody, that I mean, accurate, right? Like, a shotgun does not shoot the same way that a normal gun does. I've shot every gun you can think of under the sun, and so a shotgun shoots very, very differently. We use a shotgun because it's more likely and it's a higher probability of a kill rate, right? When we're hunting birds or something, the way that the shotgun works is they're little BBs or metal pellets inside of the shotgun. There's gunpowder. When the gunpowder is ignited, all of those metal BBs spray out, and that's why when you shoot at a bird, you're more likely to hit it versus one singular bullet. You have hundreds of little pellets, so it's brutal, and it is almost 100% guaranteed that you'll kill somebody with it. So we just kind of assumed that because they used that shotgun and then that was the goal, which it is, obviously, right? They do want to kill their parents, but the first thing they tried to get was a handgun, which is less accurate in the sense of there's only one bullet, and what if you're not a good shot? So I think that's really interesting. And also, it was their last option. They needed one ID. That was it.
And after that, we got the alibi all set up with Lyle's friend Perry Berman.
Again, crazy how nonchalant they are. It's so weird.
We're really gonna do this?
There's nothing but hatred in Erik's eyes right now. Nothing. I don't see anything. I don't see fear. I don't see guilt. I don't see anything that could potentially stop him. There's nothing but hatred. Every single thing that his parents did to him, every single thing, every single moment, every single word, every single thing was in that look. That's all he was thinking about. And it fueled his fire, because there have been multiple opportunities. Are we really going to do this? Yeah, we are. And so it's like there have been multiple opportunities for them to go, you know what? No, maybe we shouldn't do this. But the only thing that exists right now in Erik, at least from what I'm seeing, is hatred. And also, like, back to like the hair thing, like, it was humiliating. Even if it wasn't in front of people, and it was just in front of the family, like, that's humiliating. Somebody calling out something that you're probably so insecure about. So for Lyle, I can see where that's at. And obviously Lyle kind of gets into these heated arguments with his father often. So it's they've done a really good job at painting this perspective of why they would hate their parents, without just based off of kind of the things that happened, without even knowing about, you know, the sexual abuse allegations. So it's just it's very interesting. And also, that is a lot of shotgun shells. You do not need that many shotgun shells to kill somebody. But they were going in with one purpose: kill their parents, and they did.
What are you doing? What is that?
I'll finish off, Mom.
That is a lot. Ugh. Whoa, that's a lot of violence. Wow. I care about life. I think that's why this is. Oh wow, this would be upsetting to any human being, regardless of the mitigating circumstances of it. This is upsetting. This is a lot. This is somebody's life, and we are not in control of whether or not somebody lives or dies. So regardless of what happened to these boys, this was not the answer. And that was just such a heavy scene to witness. And I think it's a lot of it too is because as somebody who forms connections, and I care about people, and some of my favorite movies, the Scream franchise, is about being betrayed by the people you love the most. This was, I couldn't even imagine in that moment what the parents were feeling. I would imagine it's a lot of confusion. Maybe it's not a lot of confusion if the allegations are true. Maybe it was a coming of, you know, a coming to terms with, like, this is what I deserve moment. I don't know what they were feeling, but I know that it weighs heavy on me to see that. In general, I think that that's the human in me, I guess. But yeah, wow, that was a heavy scene. And it's not over, by the way. He said, "I'll finish off, Mom," and he goes back to reload.
Lyle, can you drive? I don't think I can drive.
Trouble hearing me? The 9:50 screening of Batman.
Yeah, but it's 10:40 now.
I know, but that's the one that we want to see. Can you help me out here?
Theater policy. We can't sell tickets after 15 minutes.
Okay, fine. Fuck!
Please stop swearing at me.
Okay.
She's funny. That's interesting. So their plan was to get the 9:50 ticket, but they can't, and then they tried to use an excuse, and she said that it's theater policy, which I think is interesting, and I wonder when that had happened. And I would imagine it's probably for instances like this.
Fine cheese, and I'm making sure that people see us. Because we've been here, what, 4 hours now? You know what they say, time flies when you're at the taste.
So their whole alibi was ruined, and I don't know if I don't know if they had expected it to go faster. I don't know if they had expected to be able to hide the guns after, but now their alibi is ruined. They don't actually have an alibi for the night in question. Perry's not there because they got there late. They couldn't get the right tickets. So their whole alibi is kind of crumbling, and Lyle is still trying to salvage it, but Erik is kind of in the immediate aftermath, that immediate guilt right after it happened.
What's the problem? What's the problem, sir?
Somebody killed my parents.
Pardon me?
Somebody killed my parents.
I came here so that you tell me I'm not a bad person.
I agree that you don't need to be a bad person to do bad things. I don't think that every single person who commits a crime is a bad person. I think that I think that people are inherently good. I think that a lifetime of bad decisions kind of taints that goodness in them. But I do see what he's saying, that he's not a bad person. And I don't think that he's a bad person. I just think that he did a very bad thing. And there are consequences of that. And guilt is one of those consequences that you don't get to see. Right? It's one of those non-material or non-physical consequences that you don't see from doing that bad thing. In this situation, it was killing his parents. He didn't see that the consequence could potentially be getting caught, sure, going to prison, sure. But then there's the guilt and the remorse, and that is something that he's always gonna be eating. Like, that will always eat at him. Am I a bad person? Am I a bad person? He will always, for the rest of his life, probably have that internal battle. And the therapist is doing the right thing, trying to get as much information as humanly possible. That way, whether or not he decides, obviously the former, to tell the police, he has the necessary information. Also, I think in this moment, the therapist doesn't know what he's going to do to him. They don't know why he did it. He doesn't know why the brothers did it. Was it just because of the discipline? Was it because they said the wrong thing to you? Or are you just somebody who's going to snap and go on a killing spree? And I think that's why we see so much fear in the therapist.
Erik, you're safe. You're safe here, okay? I strongly suggest we do something. I think we should call Lyle, and I think he should come here right now.
Okay.
Okay?
Hello?
Lyle. It's Dr. Oziel. I want you to come into the office. Erik's here.
What?
Lyle? He's told me everything.
What? No, put him on the phone.
No, come down to the office right now, and we can talk about it.
Put my fucking brother on the phone right now!
No, I'm not going to do that, Lyle.
I would imagine that their dad probably did that often. He got his way by yelling at people, and that's why Lyle yells at people. And so that's kind of why you see him reacting the way he does. No, put my brother on the phone. The therapist is standing his ground and standing firm, probably trying to get them together so that he can have the cops come and do everything that they need to do. But it's so important to stand firm in that, especially when you're dealing with somebody like that who yells to get their way. The more you stop giving in, the more you stop giving them what they want just because they're yelling, it stops rewarding that behavior.
Me? No, he won't. Nobody's killing you. Just get here now.
What? Jerry! What?
This is what I mean by I don't know how accurate this is, because that's interesting that the therapist is having an affair. Fucking Christ.
You've been, waiting long? Doctor's right.
This is crazy. She's gotta like really tap in here because wow, you don't again, like you don't know. You have no idea why they did this. You don't know if they woke up and snapped or what. So you're thinking everybody might be in danger. I might be in danger just by being here. And if anybody's gonna be the one to put you in danger, it's gonna be Lyle.
What the fuck did you tell him?
Lyle, have a seat.
Shut the fuck up. I'm not talking to you. What did you say to him?
I was afraid I was gonna kill myself.
Lyle, please.
Will you shut the fuck up, please? I am talking to my brother.
Well, you don't have a gun, do you? Okay, this is confidential. Anything you say here, it's confidential.
Fuck, why the fuck would you make up something like this, Eric?
It's not a lie, Lyle. We did it.
What's insane is the doubling down. The doubling down after and then throwing your brother under the bus and then gaslighting him is wild. Like Lyle's character is just so interesting. And so, I mean, domineering, just like his dad, like that's crazy. Which would make sense because he's the older one. He's the first one. He probably got it. You know, he definitely. It was bad.
Are you afraid, Dr. Azil?
Lyle. I choose not to live in fear.
Neither did my dad. Just because my brother tells you something does not make it true, Dr. Azil.
I could be your lifeline. How? Because I'd know what really happened. If you tell me everything, I could tell the court that you were scared, the controlling father, that you just couldn't take it. There are different kinds of murders.
Are we sociopaths, Dr. Azil?
Well, no, that's why I think you should come tell me the whole story.
So you think so? We know what we have to do now.
What?
Kill the doctor. Yeah. That figures. Interesting. Wow. What an interesting first episode. God, it feels like I was watching that forever. I think that I'm interested to see kind of how this plays out next. And like I said, I'm really interested to see how much of this is accurate to the real life story. I think towards the end there, the doctor, what he did was essentially try to get them to trust him, to build a rapport so that they did. It was almost like a cop does in a confession where they'll build a rapport with you. That way when you're talking, it feels very free, very fluent, and that confession, it kind of comes out naturally. I find it interesting that it was originally Erik's idea to go through with it, but Lyle is being the aggressor in this situation. He's the one. And I also think that, and I was having a conversation about this not too long ago, I think that sometimes watching these is hard because it's so true and so close. Right, like this is not for entertainment purposes, along the fact of like this is not like Law and Order Special Victims Unit or Criminal Minds where these are made up stories. This is a very real story about very real people. And so when we hear them talk nonchalantly, or when he's just kind of like, well, we know what we got to do now, we got to kill him, it's just like that is so hard to fathom. It's like, oh right, like this is real life, like these are two people who did this, like this was a conversation between them. So it's just very, very dark in that aspect, very hard to kind of process in that aspect. But the cinematography of it is great. The way that it's shot is very reminiscent of the way Dahmer was filmed, so you can definitely tell that it's the same team behind it. But wow, yeah, I have a headache, and I think it's just because what the fuck, bro? Like, I think when you don't know the story and you're kind of going in and you'd want to kind of absorb all this information. And like I said, like the not knowing whether or not this is true, and essentially nobody's ever really gonna know. They were the only two there. And I think it's just it says a lot about both of their characters, where Erik is saying, I had nightmares, like I was suicidal, and Lyle's kind of like, yeah, well, you made it all up. Like it kind of shows you that, you know, Lyle is the more dominant one, and Erik might be a little bit more submissive, kind of a little bit more likely to do what his brother wants him to do. So I'm interested to see how this plays out with the therapist, because I don't know how this plays out with the therapist. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed watching it, not for funsies, but from, you know, a mental standpoint, from a director's standpoint. It's really, really well directed. They do a really good job at giving you exactly what information you need in the way that you would want it. Like, this is how I would want to receive information. It never felt overwhelming. I was never, granted there was that one scene, but I never felt overwhelmed in the sense of like, this is too much information for me to process. It's giving information at a good rate, so it's easy for me to kind of process and digest, and that's what I'm going to do before I go watch the next episode, is process and digest, because this is super heavy, and this is heavy on my spirit. It's heavy to think that like anybody is capable of this, truthfully, and so we'll see. We'll definitely see how it plays out. If you stayed the whole video, great. It was a long video, but I'm happy you're here. I hope that you're doing good. Take care of yourself, take care of your mental health, and most importantly, I love you. I will catch you in the next video.